a few more. Then after I will start my class. Yes, good afternoon to all. Total 77 members are there. So last class we just discussed about the Little Fermat's theorem and other number theory concepts, Euler theorem. Today is a very interesting and important concept to us. Today mainly we talk about the primality test. Why? Because Little Fermat's theorem as well as Miller-Robbins theorem, all these are works for prime numbers only, and especially Little Fermat's theorem they designed for prime numbers only. But due to Kramikal numbers, this Little Fermat's theorem is not performing well. Due to that, several primality test algorithms are available. Several primality test algorithms are available. If we want to discuss about the primality test, it is an important algorithmic problem, and mainly it is used. The problem is of how to determine whether a given number is a prime has tremendous practical importance. Has a tremendous practical importance. Why? Because we may go and observe most of the public key cryptographies like RSA algorithm, elliptic curve cryptography, or Elgamal cryptography, and XYZ. These are all public key cryptography algorithms. All these algorithms are going to be use prime numbers to generate public key and private key pair. Again, I am repeating. So, like RSA public key crypto system, they need to generate a private key or public key with the help of prime numbers only. The help of prime numbers only. So we already know, you already written a C program. How do you if you want to write a C programming, what is the logic you are going to be used generally? Suppose n is a number which is a prime or not, which is a prime or not. How do you find it? Which is a prime or not? How you are going to find out that? Can you write a logic for that, like a small logic? Suppose k is some n is given to you, n is a prime or not. How you are going to be check whether it is a prime or not? What kind of division we will use? What kind of division we will use? Suppose any number is given to you n. So how many number of divisions are going to be used? How many? One is a count number of factors. So here we have two factors only. Yes, actually generally work C programming, generally you will write it down like this only, SQRT of n. SQRT of n. That means you need to go for square root of n. The same time, suppose you may use this algorithm. What is the running time of this algorithm? What is the running time of this algorithm? Order of square root n log square of n. Order of square root n log square n. So this is the it's an exponential function. If suppose your input size that depends on the size of the input. Size of the input. And if suppose we may use a binary digits only, then what is the complexity of this one? The ceiling log 2 of n. You can go for ceiling, but log 2 of n. That's why generally these algorithms are not good algorithms to use. So that what we can do, we can use a randomized algorithm. We can use randomized algorithm. These randomized algorithms are going to be provide better. That means it saves a lot of time to us. So most of you know randomized algorithms. You studied na? What is the randomized algorithm? What is the randomized algorithm? Anybody knows what is the randomized algorithm or not? We use random number. That is called randomized algorithm. We use random number to generate a pivot, right? When so that's why first of all, okay, we need to be know what is the randomized algorithm. Why? Because okay, I want to write a Miller-Robin algorithm through this randomized algorithm only. Through this randomized algorithm only. Because of that, okay, you need to be know randomized algorithm and randomized algorithm related information. Generally, why we are going to be use randomized algorithm? This is comes to you. I think advanced algorithms course is that they definitely need to study randomized algorithms. Even your quicksort program is there, you can use randomized algorithm that gives better results to you to get select the pivot. Whatever I want to discuss here the randomized algorithms to the result will come within the polynomial time only. For that, first of all, I want to give a small discussions to you. So we don't want to go for a square root of n that means divisions. We require less than that only. That's why you may observe this randomized algorithm so that you will understand how we are finding a prime number. How we are finding a prime number for our computations. So my algorithm is visible to you. Is it visible to you? Okay, thank you. So now you may observe here. So here, we are talking about the Miller-Robin algorithm. There are several algorithms are there. Not only this algorithm, we have several algorithms are there. I told you there are a few algorithms are there like Miller-Robin AKS algorithm and some other so n number of algorithms. So out of which the main popular things are going to be two AKS and Miller-Robin algorithm. I don't want to discuss AKS algorithm because we are using this Miller-Robin algorithm only for our computations. And how this primality test we are going to be conduct through this algorithm. Just you may observe here. If suppose any number you may choose that is going to be n, and the number these letters are quite comfortable to you to see. Whatever document is there, the size is comfortable to you to see. Okay, thank you. Why? Because I need to know that actually. If n is greater than 2, so we know that the prime number whenever you choose n, the 2 is the minimum prime number, remaining all are odd numbers, that we know. Because of the first condition which we are checking over here, it is going to be n should be greater than 2, and that is not going to be even. That's why this condition we are checking. If n is greater than 2 is even, immediately you need to say this is a composite number. Why? Because you are choosing n randomly. Choosing n randomly. There the first condition we need to be check this one only. Okay, n is greater than 2, and if that number is going to be odd, what we may observe, the odd numbers, whatever the odd numbers, we can represent in this form. What is the form? The odd number is equal to 2 to the power s into t. sorry, I will just, okay, small correction here. Okay, if suppose n is comes, n minus 1 we are choosing, n minus 1 is going to be odd number, n minus 1 we can represent in the form of 2 to the power s into t. In that case, your t is going to be odd. You can check any number. If 3 is there, then 3 is equal to 2 to the power 1 into 1. N minus 1. Suppose, okay, t is going to be odd here. So this is going to be, suppose, okay, here you should observe here very clearly. You are, okay, factor n minus 1. That means, okay, if suppose I may choose here, what number I can choose in the diagram, right? Wait 1 minute. Right here, suppose I may choose the number, any odd number I may choose. Suppose, okay, 3 I may choose. Then 3, my n is equal to 3. Suppose this is an odd number. My n minus 1 is equal to, my n minus 1 is equal to 2. That I can write in the form of 2 to the power 1 into 1. And here my t is equal to 1 and my s is equal to also 1. If any odd number you choose n, that odd number before we know even number appears, that even number we can write in this form. You choose any. Suppose I may choose like 11. What is the number, okay, we will receive here? N minus 1 is going to be 10. And 10 we will represent with help of 2 to the power 1 into 5. And t is always odd. T is always odd. I think most of you understood this one. That's why I want to represent, if suppose if n is not even, n is an odd number, then my n minus 1 is compulsory is an even number. If n minus 1 is an even number, I can represent that n minus 1 in the form of 2 to the power s into t, where t is going to be equal to odd. Where t is going to be equal to odd. So that's why I need two variables over here. One is s and t. S initially 0. S initially 0. And my n minus 1 value is going to be equal to, or that my n minus 1 value is going to be represented with help of t. So here, you observe, this is, okay, while. This is while t is even, while t is even, that means your t value is going to be even, then you have to be do this one. Here you can write. While t is even and s is going to be s plus 1, t is going to be t by 2, and so on. You need to be continue this process. Finally, you can represent your n minus 1 value as a 2 to the power s into t. 2 to the power s into t. Right? Then choose which is x belongs to 1 to n minus 1 uniformly at random. Uniformly at random. And then you compute x to the power t, x to the power 2t, x to the power 4t, and so on, x to the power 2s into t, which is going to be equal to your x to the power n minus 1 mod n. So finally we need to find x to the power minus 1 mod n. Why? Because we need to be check here the condition which is going to be said about the Fermat's theorem. This is going to be, we are checking whether this n is satisfying Fermat's theorem or not. Fermat's theorem or not, satisfying the Fermat's theorem. Why? Because this is the basic, okay, algorithm to find whether n is a prime or not. If suppose x to the power of n minus 1 is not congruent to 1 of mod n, which means that number is a composite number. That's why we written the statement if x to the power n minus 1 is not congruent 1 of mod n, then written that as a composite number. Then those who are going to be passed little Fermat's theorem, that numbers only we need to be further investigate. Why we need to be further investigate that numbers only? Because of what? Chemical numbers. Last class we discussed the chemical numbers. Chemical numbers also satisfy the little Fermat's theorem. Little Fermat's theorem. So that we want to check that one also. We need to be check that one. That purpose you need to be choose here. This is going to be I. This is going to be I. I is equal to 1 to and so on S. Here you find S and you have T. So that S you need to be used here. Then if x is to the power 2 to the power I, which is congruent to 1 of mod n, and x to the power 2 to the power I minus 1, which is not congruent. Here, okay, I want to represent other way if you need. This is not congruent. No, this is not required. You know, this is congruent, and this is also, I don't want to use here. This is not congruent. It's not congruent. This is not congruent. But that is plus or minus 1 of mod n. Then you return this is going to be a composite number. Otherwise, you need to return this number is a probably prime number. Probably prime number. Right? Got it? Here I am not declaring this as a prime number. This is a probably prime. Maybe this algorithm in future might not satisfy for some prime numbers. That's why most of the primality tests, they will declare the resultant value as a probably prime. Right now, whatever algorithms we have, whatever algorithms like what I can say, OpenSSL, SSL, or any public key cryptography, they are going to be generate prime numbers with help of this particular Miller-Robin algorithm only. Miller-Robin algorithm only. Any questions on this Miller-Robin algorithm? Do you have? Please let me know. Any confusions are there with you? To design or define this particular Miller-Robin algorithm? See the algorithm. You will find anywhere difficulty. Let me know that I can explain you again. This is the almost complete algo. This is the complete algo. Here, this is while you just just corrected this one, and this is not congruent, and this is also not congruent. So now we try to solve a small problem for this. Whether according to this any particular number we may verify na. We'll get to know whether that is a prime or not. How we can decide? Check with any number like your 29. Suppose choose n value is equal to 29 and solve the problem and check it and let me know. Can you do this work and try to find out whether n is going to be equal to n equal to 29 is a prime or not? Check it. This one only you need to be solved. N equal to 29 you choose. First you need to check here. So this is going to pass this one. Oh, this is not a composite number. This is not a composite number. Then you have to come and find how you will write in the form of this one. How you will write in the form of this one. That means your n minus 1 is equal to 28, that you can represent how? That you can represent with help of 2 to the power 2 into 7. That means your S value is equal to 2 and T value is equal to 7. T value equal to 7. Are you clear? Now you have to compute this one. Now you have to compute this one. 2 to the power x to the power s into t. X to the power s into t. Why we need to be check this one? Whether if suppose this is an odd number and which is going to be satisfy the little format theorem we are checking here. This particular point. If x to the power n minus 1 which is not congruent 1 of mod n, then you return composite. If it is going to be congruent to 1 means it is a probably prime. Again, it's a probably prime. That's why we are checking over here. Why we are checking over here? To find the fake square roots. To find fake square roots. Fake SQRT. I'm just for my simplification point of I'm writing. We are going to be find fake square root values for that purpose. Then you have to verify here. Choose any number here. How many numbers are there? 1 to 28. Okay, any number you may choose. Choose suppose 3 or 4 or a 5 or whatever number you may choose. Choose it. Suppose you may choose number 3. Then you require to find what value you need required to find. 3 to the power 2 to the power s into 7. What is s? 2. That means 4. 2 to the power 2 into 7. That means you need to write this one into again 2 ways. You write it down and find out. So definitely it is not a composite number. Then you will come down here. Then you have to verify here. Then you can finally declare whether this is a probably prime or not. Probably prime or not. This is the way the Miller-Robbin algorithm is going to be function. Miller-Robbin algorithm is going to be function. Anybody has any doubt? So let's suppose, there is another major problem which we are going to be discussed today. I told you in the last class, Chinese remainder theorem. Chinese remainder theorem. So before that, I am going to be discussing about the Chinese remainder theorem. I would like to share few things to you. I want to share few things to you. So that is going to be few things here I want to discuss for CRT algorithm. Chinese remainder theorem. We call this CRT as a Chinese remainder theorem. Example I will tell you. Take any particular some finite field ZP or any other. Suppose not ZP also. You choose any value like that. I would like to choose, suppose here I may choose Z7. I know what elements are there in that. Suppose there is a value is given like this. Suppose 2, which is congruent x mod 7, x mod 7. So another is going to be there here. Suppose same number I am writing in this form, 4, which is congruent to x mod 5. Another number I can write here. Another number I'm going to be right over here. 1 which is congruent to n, sorry, x. This is x. This is also x. Mod 2, suppose. These are the numbers are there with me. So I can write, okay, all these are going to be my chosen numbers, and these numbers should be relatively prime. Relatively prime to each other. Means you choose any pair, that should be a relatively prime. That should be a relatively prime. So if any unknown number like this, you may represent in the form of reminders of this particular relatively prime numbers, that unknown number we can identify. That is the beauty of this particular Chinese remainder theorem. Are you getting my point? You understand? This is an unknown number, but all these reminders are telling about that unknown number only. About that unknown number only. For that, only one condition we need to be used: the pairwise relatively prime. Pairwise relatively prime means 7, 5. GCD of 7, 5 equal to 1, and GCD of 7, 2 equal to 1. GCD of 5, 2 equal to 1. So any pair you may choose, the GCD of that two numbers are going to be equal to 1. Then we call that as a pairwise relatively prime number. If suppose this kind of condition is possible, we can find that unknown number. We can find that unknown number. So how we can find that unknown number? So simply you can see that what is that number? That number is going to be equal to 9. So 9 means, okay, 2 of mod 7, which is equal to 9, and 4 of mod 4 is congruent to 9 of mod 5 only, and 9 of mod 2, which is congruent to 1 only. But we have to find, okay, how we will find this x value. So through this CRT, that is possible to find, okay, very easily. So that's why Chinese remainder theorem is stating any unknown number to you, and okay, the residues are available, that unknown number residues are available to you, then you are able to find that unknown number if the mod operations are, the mod values are going to be relatively pairwise relatively prime numbers. Pairwise relatively prime numbers. How many of you understand this one? Still, okay, you need some clarification. I would like to give some clarification for you to understand the problem. First, okay, the point is we need to understand the problem. Then second point, we are going to write some algorithm for that. We're going to write some algorithm for that. How many of you identified Chinese remainder theorem problem? Or you have any questions? Please raise your question right now. So if you don't have a question, if you don't have a problem, then I will okay, go and okay, solve small this problem. Let's suppose we will choose this problem, how we will solve this problem, and how we will find this unknown number value. There are 3 steps in this particular algorithm. There are 3 steps. So next class I will write okay proper algorithm, and we will solve a few problems on this particular all this okay small tutorial we will conduct in the next class for this to solve these problems only. The first step is going to be, the step 1 is going to be compute capital M is equal to, these are all you call it as okay small m1, m2, m3 and so on. So this is I am writing small m1 into small m2 into small m3. This is going to be equal to my capital. So what is this value? 7 into 5 into 2 into 2. How much? This is going to be equal to 17. Then after you compute What do you need to compute? Capital M1 is equal to capital M divided by small m1. Means what is this value? 5 into 2 only. That is equal to 10. And M2 is equal to, you need to be find the same way, capital M divided by M2. This is equal to 7 into 2, 14. This comes under first step, step 1 only. Then M3 you need to be compute. That is going to be capital M divided by M3. That is going to be equal to 5 into 7, 35. That is equal to 35. So this is step 1. Now we will go for step 2.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, it is showing us Miller-Robbins algo. Sir, the presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, wait 1 minute. Okay, I can. Right. Window of this one. Right. I'm sorry. Here, na? Is it visible to you? I'm sorry. This is visible,
Yes,
na? The page.
yes, sir.
Right. Right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So now, okay, you can see this one. So this is the Chinese remainder theorem. So these values I can represent in the form of suppose A1, A2, A3, and so on. These values were known to you, and these values are unknown. This value is unknown to you, and this particular modular or arithmetic values are known to you. With help of these two, you need to find this x value. That is a challenging problem. Generally, this is going to happen to your public key cryptography, especially all computer problems are going to be solved with help of this particular Chinese remainder theorem. Why? Because most of the time we are going to use a modular arithmetic to represent so many values. There, the first step I am writing the compute m is equal to m1 into m2 into m3. That is going to be equal to 7 into 5 into 2. That is going to be equal to 70. Then you have to be used, okay, you have to calculate m1, m2, m3, and so on. Okay, like this, m1 divided by m divided by m1, okay, m divided by m2, m divided by m3. The corresponding resultant values you will find like this. Then you have to be used to find the next one. There is a small formula you need to be supposed to be used. The y is equal to some value inverse of mod m1, mod m2, mod m3. Mod m1, mod m2, mod m3. That means y is going to be equal to m1 inverse of mod m1. y2 equal to capital M2 whole inverse of mod m2 value. Right. And m3, y3, we need to be compute y1, y2, y3 values. Compute y1, y2, and y3 values. y1, y2, y3 values we try to find out. What is this y2? How we will find y1, y2, y3 values? Very simple. We can use this y1, y2, y3 values. How we are going to find? Here we need to write y1 is equal to capital M1 inverse of mod small m1. So m1 inverse means here capital M1 inverse means what we need to be choose 10. What is the value here? 7. 10 inverse mod 7. 10 inverse mod 7. What is the value? You need to be find out the value like that. You need to find out the value. So what is this? This is the multiplicative inverse value. This is the multiplicative inverse value. So suppose, okay, if any value given to you, how do you find that? Please find multiplicative inverse value for that. Find multiplicate inverse value for that. How to find? You have this value, this is going to be equal to 10 inverse of mod 7. What is the value you will get back? How do you solve this problem? Use extended Euclidean algorithm. Solve this and find the value. Anybody find the value? 5. So, yes, exactly. 5 is the correct answer. Find the second value, y1, y2 value also same way. Same way, y2 also you're going to find out your y2 value. Then you have y3 value. These three you need to be find like this. That means this is the formula which we need to be used, okay, to find the multiplicate inverse value. After that, what you need to do? Right, the summation of all these three values. You find, okay, m1 value, you find y1 value, and you have mi value. With help of these three, you need to be write a formula and apply the mod operation of your capital M, so that you will get back the result. Back. So this is, okay, you need to be right. This is going to be AI. This is going to be your MI. This is going to be AI. This is going to be MI. And in between you are finding YI. With help of these three, you can write a formula so that you will get back your result. A resultant value. For whatever the value you are coming, these three values you are going to be used and apply on the total mod capital M, so that, okay, your final, okay, resultant value you will get back. So this is the beauty of this particular Chinese remainder algorithm. This is the beauty of this particular Chinese remainder theorem. So where we generally use this Chinese remainder theorem, suppose you use any public key cryptography, finally the resultant value is in the form of, okay, modulo value only. That means it comes to a finite field only. So the value should be belongs to finite field. That means, okay, suppose, okay, I will give a small example to you where exactly we are using this, okay, Chinese remainder theorem. Suppose I have a value, suppose, okay, my C is equal to C1. I will write like this: C1 is equal to congruent of some x to the power e of mod n. Right. Again, okay, my C2 is also equal to some x to the power some e of mod n. So likewise, you will find, okay, some particular, okay, values are there here. You will get some particular values, and finally you are applying a mod operation over here. So there itself you are going to be use this why? Because your C1, C2, C3, whatever the values are there, ciphertext values, all these ciphertexts are designed based on the modulo arithmetic operations only. So this C1, C2 are the resultant of your modular arithmetic only, and these are different values but okay, same modular arithmetic or different modular arithmetic, they might be used. Based on that, they are going to predict what is your plain text and key. Why? Because here what value is there? Your plain text and key are there. So the plain text and key we are able to find very easily. That's why, okay, we need to be understand this Chinese reminder theorem. Just that's why I introduced this Chinese reminder theorem to you. Tomorrow class we will go in detail discussion about this one. Meanwhile, you will also read and come for today's class, tomorrow's class. That means tomorrow means okay, we have okay Thursday class. Na? In the Thursday class, we will discuss more in detail about this Chinese reminder theorem. And one more okay interesting algorithm is that we will move towards to that okay, interesting algorithm in the next class, right? So only thing here, the critical steps are 3 only. This is the one, this is the second, and third one is going to be the computation only. I will give okay detailed okay discussion about this, and we try to solve few problems based on last 2-3 classes what are there. Then I will conduct my quiz on this particular topics. Any questions are there from your side? Let me know. So this material, your textbook, these algorithms are available, but they might not written okay in this way. So these are okay randomized. Okay, some algorithms I kept somewhere. Very good resources I found, and after that I prepared this particular algorithm for you. Any questions from you? If you have a questions, okay. Otherwise, okay, say no, so that okay, I will close my class. So the conclusion of today's class is going to be what? One is a Miller-Robin primality test. Other one is going to be Chinese remainder theorem. So next quiz is going to be based on these okay, topics only. One is okay, Little-Fermat's theorem, Euler's theorem, Miller-Robin, Chinese remainder theorem, and I am planned to cover RSA algorithm so that you prepared for that RSA algorithm also. This is the syllabus for your next quiz. So okay, review all these concepts and come for the quiz. Right? Thank you.